Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Today's episode of The Conscious Investor is going to be absolutely extraordinary. I am being joined by someone who came into my life in one of those roundabout ways. So I normally don't give introductions, but this is a story, it's an introduction, and I want to share it. But before I tell the whole story, I just want to say, Monica, I have waited for you to come on the show. I am so excited to have you on the show. I am your biggest fan ever. So thank you for coming on The Conscious Investor.
Of course. It's been a long time coming. I'm so glad today's finally the day.
So happy. So I want everybody to hear, and I'll tell you what, we can even tag team this if you want, because life is all about perspective. Mm-hmm. And so I want to share with everyone how we met, because this is the power of your network and the importance of who are you surrounding yourself with? And the people you surround yourself with, they'll, rising tides raise all ships. And so I happen to hang around the most extraordinary people. So many of you listening right now are some of those people that I get to, brush shoulders with, and I'm grateful for that. So I call Monica my brand Sherpa. Okay. And you're going to hear why in just a moment. But I also have, as you've heard me reference in the past, a financial Sherpa. He was also a very good friend. And that financial Sherpa was doing a whole, reboot brand, doing the whole kit and caboodle with his marketing and his website. And I happened to be supporting part of that. Actually, I was looking over his website and I'm like, can I please rewrite your bio? And so I'm working with him on this, and we were working on it. He and I were working on a project while Monica was, just completely doing an overhaul on his brand. And so I got to see that process as I was working on this project, side project. And I'm just like, wow, that's really good. That looks great. By the way, he found Monica by way, right? We all find people by way of someone, by way of his wife, who is a rock star. And so it's just like this trickle down gift of Monica and her talent, skills, and abilities, right? So I asked him, I finally got the courage. I'm like, hey, I need to redo things. Would you mind? I really like your website. Would you mind sharing? And he's a little hesitant. He's like, I don't want all the websites looking alike. I want, he's kind of like, and we all face that, right? We all face that moment of, do I share this or do I keep this to myself? But I mean, Financial Sherpa is an incredible person, and just this is who it is. And I think that you guys would really enjoy working together. I don't know if you realize that we're going to become really good friends. So Monica goes through, rebrands my site, joins the book club, and we just became friends. And through this process, I said, you have to come. Now she has her own podcast, Authentic. And you go check out all things Monica over on authentic.com. But, this whole concept of, it's not just about having a logo. It's not just about having a website. It's about what are those components? What are the meaning and the purpose? And today's conversation is really going to help you with your branding, but it's also mindset. And that's why it's here on a mindset episode. So that was the longest introduction, but Monica, if you have the flip side perspective or something, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So flip side perspective, I'm working with this amazing woman. She's like, that was really great. So my husband needs a website. Okay, cool. Like a 2-for-1. That sounds great to me. So jump in, work with her husband, which was also amazing. And down the road, I'm working with him through his content. And that's going to also tie in again to what we're talking about today. But he was seeking some outside help, and he didn't tell me who it was that was also helping him with his content. But he said, oh, I think you guys would really hit it off. I'll introduce you suit sometime. I'm like, okay. And then it's like, was it weeks or months later? I don't know. It wasn't even on my mind. And then it's like, oh, okay. So here's my friend, Julie. I work with her, but she's the one who is also helping me a little bit. She needs some help too. So we get on a discovery call, and I love discovery calls with potential clients because, first of all, that's my social hour sometimes. Not that we don't talk about anything that's just business related. All things business, it turns actually into almost like a client call. They have ideas that take coming out of those for marketing, for shifts in business. But Julie and I hit it off right away. And it's just amazing how within our work, we can find just such fulfilling, aligned relationships where if I was out just meeting a group of friends, I wouldn't be meeting people who are so in line, so in touch. Like I'm going through something and we end up talking about it. And we're like, oh my gosh, I'm going through the same thing. It's insane the connections that you can make through work and how fulfilling that can be, especially as an entrepreneur. You're building these networks. But then inherently, there's a lot of kind of roadblocks and things that come up. So Julie and I were figuring out, what are we going to talk about today? And she had, I think, the best idea because honestly, it was something I just went through. So today, I think we're going to start here, see where it develops into about valuing yourself.
That just stung. I'm like, yes. I'm supposed to value myself. I thought that was selfish. I thought, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That whole concept. Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's go now. So, in valuing yourself, I want to start off with, so Julie posted this like idea, like here's some ideas of what we could start and jump off with. And I instantly started an imposter syndrome. I'm like, wait a minute. Like I've really struggled with this in my past. And actually I've recently just went through this huge valley of really struggling with this. Julie knows a little bit about it, but maybe she doesn't know all of like the things I was really struggling with in valuing myself. So I'm like, why should I be the one to come on here and talk about this? Like, what do I know? If I struggle with this, who am I to speak about it? And then this little quiet inner voice that I've been learning to listen to more says, that's why you should go speak about this. That's why you should speak about this topic, because it is something that I struggle with. And people might see me or my podcast or my content or my website and not think that I struggle with this, but I absolutely do.
Oh my gosh. I literally am teary-eyed right now because I think most people don't realize that. Mm-hmm. And we have this thing where we value people, where we look at people, and if they have a social profile of any kind that has any level of engagement, there's this automatic assumption like, oh, well, they're awesome. They value themselves, and so they're fine. Yeah. And yet, so I just got back from this big event. It was extraordinary and had an amazing time. Met lots of people, and for the first time, like I got off the stage and people come up to, say hi, and they're just beaming. They're like, that resonated with me. And you see that part of being a leader is like, great, I want to help people in that way. But there's this fragile side of every person. There's this humanity that runs through all of us. And it's like, but I'm just like you. And just because I have a podcast and these other things going on, I struggle with that doubt. I struggle with those insecurities and that imposter syndrome. And am I saying, this is what I hear. I don't know if you struggle with this on your podcast at all, like in creating any content creator, right? Like, is what I'm saying, does this really matter? Like, is this really valuable? Because we're all about adding value to the world. Like, am I really adding value? And am I valuable? And how do I measure that?
Yes, I definitely feel the same thing. I've gone through. So actually my current podcast right now is not my first podcast. So people go and start listening. Oh, you're a natural. Oh, well, you didn't listen to the 30 episodes I did in 2019 where I wasn't a natural. But even then you're talking about this, like viewing someone from the outside thing as valuable. I engaged with someone on Instagram and he's like, yeah, I love what you're saying about flow state. And he's like, gosh, I never thought you would reply someone famous. He called me famous. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I'm sitting here, I'm like, no, but I also wasn't giving myself credit for the value and experience and expertise I was giving. But at the same time, I'm like, it is that outside perception completely blown out of proportion. And this is what creates what I call death by comparison. We have it in branding, in our businesses, personally. And so I think comparison, of course, is a topic that has been discussed a lot, but it's also just one that just needs to keep being discussed because it's always a problem. As soon as I have my clients who are in their certain marketing arena, we're redoing their website, their brand, they're comparing themselves to Tony Robbins. They're comparing themselves to like all these different things. But so it's, my goal is to help my clients feel incomparable. And in being incomparable, they no longer have to feel like they need to conform to survive or compete to succeed within their industry. But our personal value. So when I am talking about my content online, like somebody else probably already talked about this. I'm just saying the same thing that everybody's already heard. Or, oh, this is just me and my story. Nobody cares. This isn't like all that valuable, or nobody cares. This doesn't matter. Like all of those things go through my mind all the time. Now I'll get on rushes where I'm just really loving something that I've written and really excited to speak about something. So I might feel great at the time. And then later it comes up. So it's either before or after it will come up and be like, wow, you were so exciting. You thought that was so great. That's boring. Nobody wants to listen to that. Or, like it absolutely comes up.
Okay. That's that inner voice. Right? Mm-hmm. That inner demon that's in all of us, it's like wants to steal our thunder. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It either does it on the front end and tells you you have nothing of value to say, like, that's fine. Yeah. It's already done. Or it comes up afterwards like, well, yeah, that was kind of lame, especially if something, doesn't land the way you thought it would land. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, wow, you thought you were so good, or that was such a great idea. Nope, not such a great idea,
Right.
That insecurity, right. That devaluation is coming up. Yeah.
Seriously. But what you're saying also resonates a lot, because I had this perspective shift even on myself at this event. And that was, what if I borrow how people see me? I've never thought about this, but what if, because I do so much, and I think, tell me if this resonates, like, I don't want to base my value off of other people's perceptions. And I don't want the peanut gallery, as I call them, that don't live in my shoes and they don't walk my life. I don't want them to be in control of my life by, okay, well, I have to please them in order for me to be of value. And so there's this balance here, but sometimes we don't value ourselves, our skills, and our abilities. Like whatever comes most naturally to us, we take for granted typically. And I saw all of these things and I saw, oh, wow, I should basically, be compensated in certain ways, financially, or like different parts of my business where I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was bringing a lot to the table because I want more. I see more. So I don't value even who I am right now, where I'm at.
Yes. Okay. I want to break this down because you touched on two sides. We need to not be over influenced by outside perspectives. However, your best friend, your sister, whatever, is just sobbing in tears, and you wish so badly she could see herself the way you see her. Oh, right?
Yes.
So why isn't it easy? I mean, just human nature. It's not. Why can't it be more easy to filter out all of this? Oh, we need to conform and compete with all these other people over here and, please everyone, versus like, how can we just see ourselves as others see us without all the limiting beliefs? So actually I had 3 things I jotted down that I thought might be good to share. And one of the things I had you do and have all my clients do is this exercise. So especially in personal branding, we do an exercise because we have so many of our own limiting beliefs and we're devaluing ourselves all the time. So when I'm asking a client to help give me this credibility piece that we need to talk about themselves in the way their clients do. Yeah. All of my clients don't want to be egotistical or, self-centered and all these different things. So they're naturally devaluing themselves when their clients and their customers are freaking raving about them over here. So I have them do an exercise, and it's to email somewhere between like 10 and 20 people, can be friends and family, but also coworkers, past clients or customers, and ask 3 questions and get feedback. And some of my clients were like, oh God, I could just tell they're like, God, that's a lot of work. This is uncomfortable. I don't want to send these questions to people. But when I got back, when I asked them at the end of the project, that was one of their favorite things. They said, I had no idea, like, or this helped me so much see myself as others see me. Because what comes across to others might not be what inside my head. I'm trying to be better at speaking. I'm trying to do this. I have this limiting belief. So it's all stirred up inside, and I don't really know, like, how is it coming out across in my own branding and my own content. So I'll just say the exercise now.
Yeah. So, do you see, I'm like, it's been a long time since I've gone through the exercise. I'm like,
I'll have to bring that exercise back up and go find your old one. Yeah. Go find your old one and reread it. Maybe that'd be like, read this every month or every time you're feeling like super. It's not this false fluff myself up. Like, these people, we want to see ourselves as others see us. This is the best way. We just need to straight up ask them. And when we have it in writing, we can revisit it. So email 10 to 20 people. And I wrote down the questions. So yes. 2 questions. The other one I'm going to leave off because that's just very specific to just branding. But the 2 questions: first, email those 10 to 20 people and ask them, from the outside looking in, what do you believe are my 3 best, strongest qualities? And then you can also ask them, like, what do you come to me for? Or where do you see me offering substantial value to others? And just wait for those replies. It's pretty like intimidating to ask that. We feel uncomfortable doing that. But I did that through one of my courses I had taken when I first started my business. And it was in this business course. And I'm like, this is lame. I don't want to do that. But I was like, okay, I paid this much for this course. I better get everything I can out of it. Right. And I used that exercise right away with clients because it really helped me know how to position myself, how to differentiate myself from the market. It was insanely, but more so, it helped me value myself. And I probably need to go back and visit those as well.
I think that there's a lot of worth in that, right? Mm-hmm. And when we have other people's, like, I talk a lot about having evidence, because what our mind will sometimes do to us is just play games on us. And when we have tangible evidence that's outside of us, then it speaks something different. It's like looking in the mirror and seeing a different version of yourself. You're like, wait, who is that? Oh, that's who they see. That's how Monica sees me. Oh, right. And we need to see that other version of ourselves for sure. I actually went back to somebody and I said, because I completely undersold myself. Yeah. And that was the first day of this conference. And I went back, like, I think late day 2 or early day 3, and said, you know what? I really undersold myself. And because I had this little epiphany, this little breakthrough, but that came because of the interactions I was having with people and what I could see. I was like, oh, yeah. Don't undersell.
Underselling yourself is actually one of the things that I have to navigate with my clients. I'm working with them closely to create this content, to create this branding. But if you don't find the right designer, if you're not working with the right coach, I mean, I tell my clients all this time, the clients that are my ideal clients, I can tell after even one discovery call how personally developed they are. And then also like how developed their business is. But if you don't have the right designer or coach that you're working with through this, then what's going to happen is you're going to undersell yourself. You're going to spend thousands of dollars working on building this company, building these services, having this branding and everything done. But because you're undervaluing yourself, if you don't have someone who's going to mine that out of you, like a coach, and help you kind of course correct and feel more confident in that, if you undersell yourself, if you come across as not confident or strong, it has to come across like 10 times stronger when it's on a website or on video. In person, you have this energy that's tangible. You have body language. If we undersell ourselves in any other arena, and we do it easily with our own body language, we might be saying one thing, but our body language is going to indicate that we don't believe in this. Our tone inflection, how strong or slow we're speaking, is giving thousands of signals to people of like, she does have this confidence. She believes what she's saying. But same with, if we're trying to communicate those types of things with some text and pictures on a website, like how much harder it can be. So yeah, you need to have someone who's truly going to kind of challenge you, maybe even pressure you a little bit. That's the two sides of my coins with my clients. They come to me for logos and websites. We have a lot more to do within the content and the positioning, but I want to make sure that what I created for you, Julie, I wanted to make sure it felt authentic to you, that you didn't feel like you had to be something you're not to market it and show up as this. We create some crazy persona on your website. You feel like you have to live up to, blah, like what a mess.
Finish your thought. I'm so sorry.
So that's no, that's okay. That's the one side. I know I'm going on like way deeper.
No,
step one is creating something that you don't feel like you have to be something you're not to market it. But a lot of my clients, I didn't actually get this too much with you, Julie, at all. But a lot of my clients, again, are undervaluing themselves. So if I'm not challenging them, then we're not going to get a strong enough project. My clients they're smarter, they're more charming, they're more beautiful ladies, photo shoots, ladies. Oh my goodness. But they're also so much more deep and life changing than they understand. So when we're missing those elements of their business, like we're missing out on that layer of success. It almost could be a make or break it within their brand, their design, their marketing, everything. So I have to find the line of what is something that you don't feel like you have to be or not, and then who are you truly behind the undervaluing yourself. So that's why I want to hear what other people say about my clients, because like I know I can start to see it, and then when I hear other people see it, it's like, no, you feel like you're this, but you're not.
Right. There's so much there, so many like really important elements. I could even say to speak to the point of, feeling like having a website or having a persona that you have to live up to, right? Mm-hmm. My old website felt all of that. It just it never felt congruent with who I am. And then going through this process with you, it's just like, I always tell people, like, Monica put my soul in the virtual space. That's exactly what happened. People go there and it's like, it feels like me. So you're going to get a little bit of me while you're there. And it didn't feel like I'm overselling anything at all. I'm like,
good.
Because it was really more focused on serving others, which is like one of my core values, but it's structured in that way. I'm curious, like, how you have, because you and I have both, wrestled with this demon, and it's not like a single match. It's kind of a recurring match. It's like, golly, I already took you out last time. Do we have to do this again? Oh my goodness. So, if you would mind, I'd love to hear, just a time where you wrestled with this self-value and how you became the victor.
Okay. So, these past 2 weeks, I'm getting teary-eyed. I'm on the upswing of that valley. And yeah, it's just crazy. All the things that I've gone through in my life that I've felt undervalued by myself. I've had to work on my own self-love, all of these things where I just kept searching for that proof, that evidence that I was enough, that I was good enough. I used to always tell myself I'm only good, like a little bit good at a lot of things. And I kept searching for the thing. And so much of that in my life, there's probably 30 stories I could come up with, but I'll just tell you the most recent one for the most personal example, super fresh in my mind. So here's the thing. I've now learned, after the 30 Mountain Valley mountains of going through this, especially you start on business, you start an entrepreneurial journey of any kind, it triggers it a lot more. You might have this phase of your life, maybe once, like every couple years, maybe, but I feel like since I started my business, I've had it every quarter. Like, here it comes again. So my most recent one, it really reminded me, okay, when I am feeling this way, when I'm just like, is anything that I do like worthy? Is this good enough? Am I an imposter? Am I ripping people off? Like I ask that of myself. And I guess it's a good thing, because it's like, okay, gut check, like, but when you increase your services, when you increase your prices, like it becomes uncomfortable. We get in a comfort zone. And then once we go to expand, or there's a new phase or change in our life, it usually can start trigger these, like not believing in yourself or undervaluing yourself. So here's like the 3 that I had experienced recently. Okay. But the one outcome I always seem to find from these is I feel this undervalued, horrific kind of thing I have to go through and self-coach myself out of before I hit my next breakthrough. So there's a couple breakthroughs coming, but I just had the one that helped me like relieve all that pressure of like undervaluing myself. But for example, I'm getting married next year. This is not my first marriage.
So
exciting. So exciting. However, the limiting beliefs, they're coming back up to haunt me. They're jumping up, making me so fearful and undervaluing myself, like completely. Like, whoa, okay. Serious need to turn that around and make that a check. That seriously affected my relationship, right? Like, okay, let's change that. So next, I'm shifting into a different business kind of venture. I thought I was going in one direction, but I'm going and doing a completely different offer. It's not easier. It's more comprehensive. It's going to include me needing to get more specialists and other like team members involved, and maybe even possibly like flying out to work with people like one-on-one. So triggering all these undervaluing, like limiting beliefs getting triggered up. And Julie, we've talked about this recently. I finally, after 2.5, 3 years of back and forth struggling, I'm letting go of the expectations of my industry for what I'm doing in my marketing. So I am not using social media in the way that social media is being used, or maybe even if at all, but my expectations as a brand designer, as, you know, a website designer, oh, let me see your social media. Like, of course I have to have that. If I'm going to create anything for anyone else's social media, I better have this amazing social media. Huge roller coasters, undervaluing myself, limiting beliefs, like those types of things would trigger the undervaluing. I wasn't meeting up to the expectations that I thought people had of me. I'm still landing great clients. My client roster is just growing and growing. Networking is amazing. Social media has never brought me any clients, but I still felt like I needed that. So 3 different things, 3 different arenas. Every single one of those had made me second guess almost everything. Right. Okay. And to be even more candid, I think I was crying in bed 2.5 weeks ago and said, I'm going to stop my podcast and delete everything. And I didn't. And I'm so glad I didn't.
Oh my gosh. I just listened to it as I was traveling. I was listening to your podcast, just loving it.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you didn't do that.
No. Yeah. So I didn't do that. I'm like, okay, there's a differing use for this. Maybe this wasn't meeting some expectation, but I just didn't value what it was I was doing okay, here's the other aspect. When we are not feeling emotionally sound, we can start tearing at ourselves even more. So because I was unsettled somewhere, like a little overworked, a little overwhelmed, whatever, over here, it blew out of proportion into all these other rooms that it shouldn't have ever even been in. And that included undervaluing myself and my podcast and wanting to just delete everything and quit everything. Like, I'm glad I didn't, but I know not to make decisions when I'm in that zone. So,
but isn't that part of being an entrepreneur? And
it is.
Right. If you're an entrepreneur, if you are actually engaged in your business, in order to grow your business, you're constantly living on the cusp of discomfort.
Yes.
And then you're also implementing something that is new and putting in new strategies. And at some points that just becomes overwhelm and there's a fatigue. And yeah, I know that we're all supposed to have these really healthy practices in life that keep us, sustained so that we never face those fatigues. But I haven't met a single entrepreneur that does not face this. It's cyclical throughout the year. And I think that those cycles become elongated as you personally develop and, know how to work through that in a healthier way. You can identify it, you could recognize it and all of that, but it's part of that process.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's why I think it's so important. I've had, through my younger years within anxiety, depression, these bad relationships that I was in, unhealthy home environments, I've had like therapy and counseling. And now within like this entrepreneurial business venture recently, this last year was like just hitting this wall, and I started losing my passion and just undervaluing again, all the things. And so my mom even said like, maybe you should look into coaching, getting a coach. And I was like, oh man, like, is that like a therapist or like, is that, just money? How is that really going to help me? Astounding changes have been made so that even though I'm still going through these difficult times, like they don't last quite as long. I can see them for where they are and I can actually learn from them instead of just keep following in them and not getting like the shift that I need out of them. But yeah, my mom in her industry, which is processing mortgage loans, she says all of these lenders, all of these people who are like self-employed, working themselves like crazy, she says they all either have a coach, a therapist, or both. Like it's just one of those things. So in business, it is not a fault. There's nothing wrong with you if you're struggling with mindset issues, if you're undervaluing yourself. Do not feel alone in that, because that's, to some extent, everyone is experiencing this. Everyone that we see as this huge, big success is very likely still experiencing these things as well from time to time, if not maybe as frequently as us. We just can't hear these stories, but when we can share and meet and talk with other people who are entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, we can start hearing these stories and it normalizes it. And so I think that's where then we don't start picking ourselves apart as hard. We start being a little bit more compromising. We start giving ourselves a little bit more grace and just like, okay, here's the thing that's going to make us uncomfortable. Because in order to grow, we have to step into that discomfort. Like you said, Julie.
We absolutely have to. And as you said, I had a panel discussion on how to leave and transition from your W-2 recently. And in that discussion, the 6 panelists, every single, there's one of them that I am not certain. So I will say confidently 5 out of 6 of those people had a coach. Yeah. Had a coach or a mentor of some form in their life to build their business, to get to where they wanted to go. 2 of them I know for certain, had a coach to support them during the transition, to prepare for it and to land it. Right. So, if you look at anyone, and as I look at, my colleagues who are further along in their investment journey, or further along in their coaching development of their coaching platforms, it's like they have coaches, and you realize that how normal it is. But so it's affirming. But I want to ask you this: how did you learn? I have this concept right now of like learning to get comfortable, and this is from my coach. He's been working with me for like a year and a half on this concept of be okay just sitting with it. It's okay. So I met with somebody who might become a coaching, one of my clients, right? On the coaching end of things. And he has imposter syndrome, and it comes from not valuing self, but that all stems from something else. It all comes from somewhere else. And I'm like, what if he just sat with the imposter? So we have this part where even if we're not valuing ourselves, maybe we need to just, and I want to hear what you think on this. Like, what if we just sat with that? I don't value myself. And instead of like trying to fix it or resolve it, I'm thinking out loud here because you and I do that. And like, what if we just sat with it and said, who are you? Like, why are you here?
I think that's a really great idea, because you just prompted that. I am someone who's very quick to like jump and fix it. Quick, go take action. And when that's not in alignment, that action can take me further away from the right path. It confuses me. It makes things harder. And truly, that's where I become inauthentic, is when I'm just trying to fix it. So in all these times, now, why I think is one of the most important, powerful questions in our branding. But in this instance, maybe we don't necessarily need to know the why. Maybe we don't need to know how to fix it, but just to sit with it and experience it. Because I think the tendency of running away from it, trying to avoid it, causes more harm than good. We become fearful to it. Therefore, we give the power to it. So if we're
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Constantly running from it or trying to deal with it, like put it away, is costing energy. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I think that is one of the most important things, because when we can sit with it, know how we're feeling, we're facing it, we're decreasing that power it's being given. Maybe just in that act could be one of those acts that just you start to learn to value yourself more, because you're not running away from it. You're not fearful of it, afraid that it's true or whatever it is.
Right.
But I think, like you said, Julie, there's a very important thing about what you said there is just accepting it. Not necessarily like just feeling it and accepting it, but not picking it apart, not making the list of all the reasons why we're not good enough, not why we're not this. So this is something that comes up with my clients sometimes. And I hear a lot of, okay, when we start getting close and we're working really intimately on these like personal branding and content, we got to dive deep. And I start hearing a lot of things like, oh, but I'm not strong enough. I'm not I'm good enough speaker. Oh, I'm not good at that tech. I'm horrible at.
I started it. I'm still at the novice level. Yeah. So I don't feel comfortable kind of posturing myself as if I've arrived.
Yes. Right. So you don't have to do that is the thing. So whenever I hear those things that start really taking the energy away from like this creative space, when we have our one-on-one calls, as I say, okay, let's add yet. I'm not strong enough yet. I'm not good at tech yet. Just adding the yet shifts that perspective of there's room to learn. Everyone starts at the beginning, that it is something that is coming and that you're working towards, and that it is possible for you. Adding that one word, I think, at the end of these kind of disempowering, undervaluing statements can make that shift. Like, okay, I'm acknowledging where I'm at. I'm being truthful with myself, but I'm going to say yet, because there's the potential, there's room for growth. I'm giving myself grace now. This is where I'm going to be though. And sometimes we honestly I don't have to be good at the tech. You can find someone to be good at the tech, and you know what? Just know that that's not a strength and work on something else. But like, I'm not fit enough yet, or, just keep adding the yet. If you catch one of those disempowering words, just be like, yet, and then haha, laugh it off. And it just shifts that modality, I think.
Here's an interesting, just to expand this a little more, is that when we built out my website, you said this website should last you. And I think you said this website, the way we're building it, could serve you up to 10 years. And it was like, at least 5 years, this website should serve you. And that changes it, because a lot of times we want to build, and it's so counterintuitive. We're building businesses, we're building brands, we're doing all this building because we want to grow something. And yet we build it based off of the limitation of, but we're here right now, instead of thinking, but I know I value myself. I know what I'm capable of, and I know where I'm headed. I know I'm going to reach this outer rim, that I can see it. Yeah. But so I'm not going to build my website based off of this. My branding and marketing is not going to be off of just current alone, but there's a level of discomfort there.
Yes. Yes. So in seeing that potential, but in showing up. And so like when you meet someone, oh, here's my website. That's that layer of, okay, well, I don't feel like this quite yet, but this is in me. This is where I'm headed. And that is not going to come if we don't first make the room for it. If we don't first create that level, it's like the chicken before the egg, except for we don't actually know which one of those comes first. I know that first we have to come this belief, this value, this positioning, this personification, this authentic like marketing and content and our voice. All of these things have to show up in order for this to follow. You can't just jump in and say, I'm going to charge people. We just started talking about this, like $100,000 for branding. I don't do that. But there are those people who they did not get there overnight. Like they definitely would have had to go to someone if they felt before you're ready, a little bit before you're ready to even go and get that experience. So that is that cusp of the veil of walking from undervalued to then feeling that you are that value. It comes in our internal thoughts and words, the words we use to communicate with ourselves, our inner dialogue, but then it also comes with just how are we showing up? So I think that's what I like to try to help coach my clients through. That's why it might be brand coaching, is here's the personification of on the cusp of what you are, not quite yet, maybe. So there's a little bit of that line, and we do want to be true and authentic to what it is that we're creating and doing. But that imposter syndrome comes from yourself, and 99.9%, unless you are, okay, like I'm sure there's someone out there who's saying, what is that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio? And he says he's like a young kid and he's pulling over all of these. It's based on a true story. Has Tom Hanks in it?
Okay. I was like,
someone help me.
Johnny Depp?
No,
like,
not Johnny Depp in it. So Leonardo DiCaprio is this young man who's going around, and he's a hustler, basically. He goes in and he works as a doctor. He has no doctor degree. I think he ran out of the room by the time they were going to give him a scalpel and a surgery or something. But like, he was an airplane pilot. He was putting on all of those. Now that, oh gosh, Catch Me If You Can is what it's called.
Okay.
So that
watch that
personification of, I'm going to put on some surgical gloves and I'm going to go do surgery on someone. I've never even taken like one doctor's class. Okay. That is imposter syndrome that we should be wary of.
Right.
I hope someone's radar is going off and saying, I'm an imposter, I shouldn't do this. Right. But all of your other imposter syndromes is just you undervaluing yourself. I want to say, don't take my word for it maybe, but I would say 95% of all of those imposter syndrome feelings are coming from your thoughts of undervaluing yourself, because you really, truly are worth it. You do have the potential. And just because you're not showing up that way is what's keeping you from being that way right now.
So true. So true. That's fire. I was thinking about, on those lines, when we put our energy, I have like 10 thoughts going through my head. I'm like,
no, let's hear them.
focus. You got to focus and like zero in. But I was thinking about something that I've been practicing personally on this, because I wrestle with that. High achievers, they really wrestle with it, because there's always the next level up and more. And it's a healthy self-competition, right? It mostly is healthy. It can be very unhealthy if you don't know how to harness it and everything. But in general, I think I leverage it for good. But I've been learning recently that I am spending my energy in some capacity at every single point. And so how am I choosing to spend that energy? So I could spend that energy, and not to go back, like, let me go back, I'm keep referencing back because it's so fresh, this, event that I was at this last weekend. But I remember at some point I had a really powerful talk with a friend, and he is actually a high performance coach as well. And so I told him at the end, I'm like, you just totally ninja coached me. It was so awesome. But he got me to think about something. I've been trying to pick something apart all year long in myself. I couldn't see it. And you can't know something that you don't see, but you can continue to pursue that. Right. So this continual pursuit, and we've had conversations about this in the past. So we, just kind of took me to this whole nother level. And honestly, it's just, if you're in a good situation, that's why I said he coach ninja'd me, because I was like teary-eyed and felt very unstable in a good way. And, went back up to my hotel room and started feeling all the doubt, all the insecurity, knowing that I'm going to go on stage the next day and everything like that. And it's like all this doubt and insecurity flooded in, all the imposter syndrome flooded in, everything. And I made a choice that was so different in that moment. And I chose to expend my energy not on dwelling on all of those feelings of doubt, insecurity, imposter. They were there and they were present, but I made a deliberate choice to say, what's my evidence to point the other direction? What am I seeing? What have I seen since I've been at this event? What is coming out from me just even at this event? What's the track record up to this point? Right. And so I started putting my energy into this other side, and it was a choice. But it's so difficult to do that. We're not conditioned to do that. We're conditioned to fix the problem by harping on the problem and putting our energy into that versus, let me put my energy into building into this problem. So maybe let me give an analogy on that. Sometimes when that happens, we think we need to go, there's a renovation in a house that needs to take place, and we can see that renovation needs to take place. And sometimes we think that doubt, insecurity, all of those feelings that could destroy us, that means we need to tear down the walls, get down to the studs, redo the piping and the electrical lines and everything like that. In reality, it's just a freaking picture that was off kilter that needed to be straightened out.
Yes.
Like, how are we using our energy?
So instead of like trying to re-level your foundation and floor, it's the picture frame that's off. Just like, oh, that's crooked, not my whole house is crooked.
The picture is still beautiful. The picture is still hanging there.
Yeah.
There's all the wonder and beauty of this still. I just needed to just like, I just needed to see the picture clearly. I just needed it straightened out so I could see it and receive it.
Yeah. So where do you think in undervaluing ourselves, when we talked about all the places that it pops up and everything,
right?
What do you think is one of the most, like, I don't know, profound moments or insights that you had or practices that you had that helps you get through this too? I mean, there could be so many. You just said you just kind of started on one. Yeah. I just didn't know if there was like deeper, more specific or another.
Yeah. Well, and you and I were talking about this before we went on air, and that was, that tangible. Oh. And so I got that award. You know, if you're on the YouTube channel, you can see, look, I'll show the award for podcasting. And it's so like small and like not small, like it just, I've conditioned myself. And I think a lot of people have that. You don't want a room full of trophies. Trophies collect dust. And when you die, those trophies just go, to the dumpster. Right. And so I think most generations at this point have been conditioned to have that belief system about having that tangible evidence. You don't need a certificate on the wall that you accomplished something, you don't need that because you have it within you and that's good enough. And when I wasn't expecting that award, it came out of the blue. And, when I went up there to get it, I got all teary-eyed. Because I didn't expect that external value to actually mean something to me. But to be able to receive also that external value from our peers and our colleagues and people that are further along, that's like part of building up that inner value. That's such a fine line. And it's so important. But that was, I'm actually going to just be digesting that for a while because I'm not into tangible things in life. And you're a minimalist also. And it's just
I was going to say that.
like, oh my gosh, it's just clutter. Is it just clutter? That just filled part of my soul that I didn't know had that spot for it. Yeah.
So that validation, that recognition came exterior. You weren't in pursuit of it. And I think that that's when it came, that's what made it even more special. If you're desperate for it, if you're needy for it, then it cannot fill this hole that you need to fill yourself. When you know and are constantly working on fulfilling that hole, that need and valuing yourself, when we get those exterior recognition and validations, yes, they make me want to cry. They just take it over the top. And I think we can appreciate them versus, okay, I used to be as bad as taking compliments as like criticism. When I had my art and jewelry, I would be out at shows with all of my work that had my little soul in it, like out on display for people to pick apart and to judge and criticize. And it was my works of art. So I took it personally, even though I shouldn't have. And I learned how to not do that. Right. And I had to learn how not to do that. So when we get to logos and branding, but when people give me compliments, I'd be like, oh, thanks. I would get so uncomfortable. And I would try to say like, oh, I just started, or, oh no, that one's not very good. Or, I'm comparing myself to others who have been doing that art for a long time. So I didn't value my work like other people were valuing it. So because I wasn't fulfilling that hole or my own personal value, other people giving me that recognition and validation, it might give you a little bit of a peak, but it's not lasting. It won't lasting, and it can't be as deeply appreciated and help us as much. So if we are at least even working on valuing ourselves, then sometimes I think the external recognition and validation from someone who's been in business doing this a long time, who's worked with other designers, who's had other coaches, whatever it is, when they give us that validation and recognition, it can help us build our evidence, not be brushed under the rug, not turn into another unhealthy, like needy, I'm breathing, I can't breathe, I need more. I need people to tell me every day I'm worth it, kind of thing.
Right, we can't be on that end.
Exactly. So I think just doing your own personal work, it is going to be a struggle. There's no finish line. You're never going to get to some finish line, but to consciously work on this. And then you can also use that external validation in times to help build this, because we can tell ourselves stuff all day long, but until we can truly hear and see someone we know, someone we, what is the word? Someone we not appreciate, but truly recognize. Someone we recognize, some stranger on the street, but they're like, no, they're not in my industry. Like we've brushed those under the rug more. They're like, they don't even know me. That's worthless. But someone who we look up to, who we appreciate, who knows us.
Right.
Those
it
should
is
be
respect.
More of those.
It really is. It is really the words. It really doesn't even matter sometimes to me if the person is in my field, because for me, most of the challenge comes with, what was it? What was this story? What was the journey leading up to said point, no matter what it is? And it recognition of like, oh gosh, dear God, how many times have I considered dropping the podcast? All of the, I bet most podcasters go through this, right? Multiple times. And so it's like, you work through those moments, you work through the challenge and through the struggle. And so when you have someone that you respect, it's almost like, I see you. So for me, it's almost like, it's not even about, hey, you have this podcast. It's, I see your work and I value your work. And I know what it takes to do that.
Yeah. So in the award, I can see in you, and you were telling me the story about it, that it was truly one of those moments where I'm getting a little emotional about this. So when we can believe what someone is telling us, right?
Oh my gosh.
So we can talk ourselves out of believing anything we want for any reason, making some excuse why that's not true. But to truly accept the gift of the award, or the gift of the compliment, or the gift of the testimonial, the gift of someone higher up in business saying, you've got it, you've got something, to truly accept it as a gift. No ifs, ands, or buts, or or some sort of, I'm still working, it's not good enough. Without any of those, is one of those things of like how we accept love and self-love, like all of this chain, all of this chain that we need to have to be whole human beings, to be successful in business, and to truly enjoy our quality of life and help others in our life. It's a network web, but receiving the gift, when you get the gift of someone telling you your value, being openly wholehearted, receiving it as truth, not second guessing it. And also on the side, not searching for needing that validation and doing it yourself. You said the words, I see you, Julie. And there's another practice that I've been doing off and on. And I think this is the one that,
I think I know which one this is.
Yes. I think I shared this one with you.
I've been doing it, by the way.
You have? Okay.
I have.
I want to hear your story. You start. You tell me the story and what it is.
Okay. Well, I think that this is the one where we look in the mirror.
Yes. It's self-reflection, literal self-reflection.
I got in front of the mirror
the
next morning after having that conversation. And I looked in the mirror and I am like, you have everything it takes, and I believe in you. Like, look, I'm just saying that here on Zoom where I can see myself, it's like, I get all teary. I'm like, woo, but because it's so difficult to tell ourselves, to speak to ourselves with the kindness that we would, and enthusiasm that we would speak to our friends and family.
Yeah. I, in the mirror reflection practice, I sit down for 10 to 20 minutes and I just stare at myself. No background music, no guided meditations, blah, blah, blah. And the first time was super awkward. I've done so much like self-work in the mirror. Like when I was 28, I couldn't even say I love you to myself in the mirror. Like it was this huge thing. But to sit with myself. At first it's weird. I start noticing how uneven my eyes are, how like my acne is coming through, like all these things. But then I just kind of release those. Like, okay, these are observations, not judgments. Like I see all these things in my loved ones, but I see past those. I actually don't see those.
Right.
You spend enough time with yourself. We spend our entire days doing things, talking to ourselves, usually not talking nice to ourselves. You should do this. We have to do this, blah, blah, and just push, driver. At least that's me. Perfectionistic, all comes around. The more time I just spent in the mirror, it quieted all of the voice. And I just started feeling like I see you. That's what I started hearing. Like I was actually looking at myself. I didn't say it in my head, but it was giving myself that attention. The quality, one of the 5 love languages, right? For people is like quality of time.
Right.
Is that the right one? So we need to give our loved ones time, one-on-one eye contact, so that they know, like, I see you, I'm here for you. You don't even have to say a word, just listening. And when we do that in the mirrors, we do that to ourselves, which we're the only person we're going to spend our entire life with.
Right.
How much time do we actually spend with ourselves? And have we ever spent any time looking at ourselves and just being like, I see you, I hear you. And in those moments when I started doing that, what was revealed was I valued myself more because I was able to give myself more grace. I saw all of the hard things this woman had to go through and that little girl had to go through to get here, all the things that she did that was bad or good. And I truly started, like, that was the outcome of that exercise. It doesn't happen on the first time. Maybe you feel a little bit and then sometimes you feel disconnected from it. But like overall, I would say a practice of this every few days, 10 minutes a day or every day, the value, self-value, I think can truly be one of those things you walk away from. And it doesn't have to be this exercise, you jump through the hoops, you just sit there and you just look at yourself and you just let all the thoughts, you just let everything process. Like you were saying, sit with it, sit with the feeling of being undervalued, but maybe just sit with it in the mirror and just sit with yourself. But the second you said, I see you, I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Cause it's a matter of like, I see you.
Yeah.
I believe in you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This is
value.
This is just, you know, I'm like, I value you so much. And I just love this conversation. I could carry this conversation on forever. And then we go into everything else. And I cannot believe this as we're wrapping up here, Monica. I cannot believe that neither of us dropped book titles. You and I, did you notice that?
That's crazy. I think that's the first. I did drop a movie reference, but that's it.
You did, but usually you and I are referencing books that we should be like, so-and-so and so-and-so and da-da-da.
This great book.
Right. So I am going to do one book drop as we wrap up because I started reading it on the plane and it's going to be coming up for the book club that I run. And oh man, I love Ryan Holiday. He uses stoicism in his writing and it's just so profound. But I started reading the book on stillness. It has another little, it's like 3 words, but just look for Ryan Holiday stillness. Yeah. And that ability to just sit. But it allows you to be present. And that opens the door to everything else. And nothing else can happen until we find that stillness. That piece. You're going to love it. You're going to read it and you're going to love it.
I can't wait for book club. I'm going to save it for book club so I can do it with everyone else. I will save it for book club. Yes. Yeah. So we've got a lot of really great practices we mentioned in here too. I think maybe just highlighting them in the show notes. Like here were the 3 or 4 practices we've mentioned in here. So yeah, people can practice those and don't do them all at once is what I say. Like I'm one of those people who find a book or find anything. Oh, I have 6 new things to add to my morning. Or,
oh my gosh.
No. So yeah, just pick whatever one interests you first. Some of these don't need to be 30-day commitments, especially sending those emails to 10 to 20 people. Right. So yeah, just pick one thing at a time and then just come back to the show notes so then you can pick up the next thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like if you find out that you have an allergy or something, you don't try to, take, add, you take everything out of your diet. You don't add everything back all at once, right?
Exactly.
Just one thing at a time. There's no rush. There's no rush. There is no rush.
Because when we push ourselves harder, we start finding more of those experiences and examples of, I think, devaluing. That's where my perfectionist just gets triggered. So I know not to overwhelm my plate with new things.
Our friend Anthony Vicino, he says consistency over intensity.
Yes.
And I love that expression.
That's like water, the water through the canyon. Just drip, drip, drip with the rain. It doesn't have to be the torrential flood.
Oh my gosh. So good. Okay. Where can everyone go? Because you're awesome. And if you are listening to this, if you need, a brand Sherpa of your own, I am grateful for the introduction to Monica. I always tell people about her because she's absolutely amazing and extraordinary. Like truly you are gifted and talented, because it's not just, and I feel like that was part of our alignment, is that we like to do things. I like to serve people through investing and coaching. And it's not, okay, well, this is the only thing you get. It's like you help people with their branding, but they're getting this brand coaching that is so it's invaluable. Like it's the game changer. It's the fork in the road shift that everyone needs with their brand. So where can they find you? Favorite place?
Everything is authentic.com. I don't like dropping social media handles because, however, I'm not present on them anymore. But as a website designer, that's the goal. Everyone needs to go to the website. That's where the opt-ins are. That's where the contact me is. So my funnel, my lead is always my website. So authentic.com. I am over on LinkedIn on occasion, but I mean, you can get my email and email me from Authentic and we can just communicate that way too. But I love working with people and clients who are willing and able and interested in just finding that little bit of that it factor, that going deeper, who want to become incomparable in their industry and are tired of just competing and surviving and conforming to everything within the industry standards. I say that there are, design rules, but rules are meant to be broken to create something incomparable. There's some rules that we can break to create something that just, like Julie said, feels like your soul is on a website and that you feel comfortable in continuing to grow into, that's going to last for years. I just love making connections with people. I'll do audits for brands and stuff, even within like the discovery calls. So truly it's just like a non-commitment. I love meeting with other people and just talking out those discovery calls. So you can book one of those on my site as well.
Listen, if you're listening and you are not satisfied with your website and you just feel like it's shallow, it's empty, it's just a sales pitch or something, like that's where someone like that's where Monica, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know anyone else that does what you do. So, I mean, like, that's how extraordinary it is. So make sure you connect up, go check out her website, connect up with Monica. And you can see so many really great examples that just showcase like the scope of your work is tremendous. Like you're not just working with investors or you're not in one single pool and everybody, you can see that you bring out the best. So it's not just me. And I look at your website and I see the testimonials and, examples, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you can feel the soul in that one. It has the Monica touch.
And that's because we shouldn't be better than anyone else. We just need to be different. And so I just hone that out with being different, but the website just needs to be an experience. It's your clients and customers' first experience with you. So I like creating experiences and it's fun because they're always going to be different.
So good. Monica, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your friendship and the gift you are to this world. You're extraordinary.
It was an honor. And Julie, you are just one of those bright, shining lights that have just turned everything around in my own experience with my work, your book club. I just love the connections and people that I think are just drawn to you and that you naturally just share. You're so sharing of me. You're talking about people hoarding, their people. You are just the most share. So anyone just is close in your network, like life is improved, you're shining light work-wise, personal-wise. I love the book club and I can't wait to hang out with you more in there.
I'm going to just keep those words to my heart.
See, exactly. Yes. Thank you for your compliments and your value add, I guess, to my personal life. I will keep it close to my heart. And I know it's truthful because you're a very authentic person, Julie.
Yeah. It doesn't get any real than this.
You are the same as you are on and off the podcast. Like it's just you. I love you. You're awesome.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, before I get too egotistical or big headed or anything, I'm kidding. To my amazing listeners, you are just amazing and I'm grateful for you. And I'm grateful for just the contribution that you are giving to the world just by being you. Until next time, live big and love bigger. If you're embarrassed to answer the question, what are you reading? Or you're looking for a community to read with, the 5-Week Book and Networking Club is for you. The 5-Week Book and Networking Club helps readers of all kinds grow, learn, and connect with others in a really meaningful way. There's no commitment. Join the group book by book. If you're the person known for not finishing the books you start, or maybe you're a self-proclaimed slow reader or can't decide which book to read next, join us. I provide a reading schedule broken into 5 simple days of reading with an average of 7 pages a day. Reading is such a powerful way to expand your thinking, understanding, and skill base. And reading with the 5-Week Book and Networking Club will also build your network and affect your business. In 2021, the 5-Week Book and Networking Club completed 8 books and 40 weeks of reading and networking. Head over to julieholly.com to connect so you don't miss out on the next book.